Hi there, I'm Mary Kirby with Runway Girl Network, and you've landed on PAXX TV. In this episode, we're going to look at the seat crunch that is happening on aircraft around the world as airlines tighten up seat pitch and seat width. There's a devolution occurring in certain economy class cabins, and our deputy editor, John Walton, joins us from Japan to discuss this issue. But first, a word from our sponsor, Panasonic Avionics. John, American Airlines recently announced that its new Boeing 737 MAX narrow-body aircraft are going to feature 3 rows with 29-inch pitch. That's kind of tight for legacy airlines. The big question, I guess, is how low can they go?
Well, that's a really interesting question, isn't it? I mean, we've seen concepts in the past at Aircraft Interiors Expo, for example, of saddle seats and sort of seats facing each other, which mean that you can cram people in at 27 inches with sort of flip-down seating. Now, one of the things that I'm concerned about, of course, is the safety aspects of this. Are you going to be able to evacuate people from an aircraft full of 28-inch pitch seats? That's something that I don't think has been studied enough by regulators, by seat makers, and by airframers.
Regulators are accepting simulation testing to show that passengers can evacuate from these aircraft. They're not demanding real-life evacuations. Is this something we should be concerned about?
One of the issues with the evacuation side of things is that the airframers are using people who are not the average mix of passengers. So when Airbus did the A380 evacuation, for example, they used a mix of staff members and gym members in the local area. Now, that's not your average mix of passengers. It's not got the families in, it's not got kids, it's not got old people, it's not got people with reduced mobility. It's not even got the amount of hand luggage that people are carrying aboard flights these days. British Airways permits 23 kilos of hand luggage. Other airlines don't even have a hand luggage weight limit. As long as you can lift it into the bin yourself, you're fine. That's not really something that's been adequately, in my view, tested in the real world to ensure that passengers are safe in the event of an evacuation. The frustrating thing from a safety perspective is that flying is the most safe form of transportation in the world. And the industry has done a great job in making the overall flight experience incredibly safe. And it's frustrating that the industry does rest on those laurels when it comes to the cabin interior.
I wonder if we'll see a renewed push from regulators on this front. The FAA has said in the past that it would be looking at potentially doing some real-life evacuation testing, the last time we checked in with them at least. So here's hoping that that moves forward with their medical institute. More broadly, regulators have had a lot to say lately about passenger comfort and the passenger experience here in the United States. United Airlines, of course, that recent horrific dragging incident prompted lawmakers to discuss the issue in a recent House Transportation Committee hearing. John, did you get a chance to check this out?
I did. Look, no one ever got unelected for saying mean things about the airlines, right? And that was very much the tone of this hearing. The problem is that the aviation industry really does not want or need Congress to come in and impose regulations. But the industry is not doing enough to self-regulate in a number of areas around passenger experience, around customer service, around the rise of bundling and the ancillary side of things. There are a lot of people who consider that the airlines are doing baits and switch around pricing right now. And we know different. We know that the airlines are doing all sorts of interesting things around bundling ancillary options. But to normal passengers, that doesn't look like that. And there's a big risk that if the airlines don't really start taking a look at what their business model is in terms of how they interact and how they position themselves with regard to passengers, that regulators in the US or the European Union or even Australia will come in and say, look, this is not something that you're going to be able to do anymore. And that will be an external shock, and it's a big risk for the industry.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, John, to talk about this really important issue. Of course, we will be paying very close attention to how things evolve in the passenger experience space. To our watchers out there, join us again next time for the latest news on the passenger experience.
It's a great day, I'm feeling good. Oh, the possibilities of what I could